Hey, welcome to Politics. I'm your host, Mark Palatino, and with me, as always, on these is Joe Ramirez, hopping on the line with us.
How's it going?
You there, Joe? All right, cool. I just want to make sure it was working.
Check. All right, we're good. I think. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hoping. Yeah,
Okay,
I
good.
can hear you. Yeah, I'm hoping we don't have the same issue we had last week because everything was laggy,
Yeah.
like super laggy last week.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah.
I was like,
No, I'm trying
here we
to
go again.
readjust everything. Because my daughter started her own. She's in the process of starting her own YouTube channel. So I'm like, I have to like set things up on my Mac or my mini Mac, and then set it up on my computer, and I'm like, my laptop. So it's like, I have to make sure everything's all reconfigured.
Yeah, that's cool though. How old is she?
7.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's cool. I think my kids would love to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I talked about it before. Like my daughter, my 3-year-old has her sign off. Like she literally, like every time she talks, she's like, whenever she's about to play a game, it doesn't matter if it's like Minecraft or she's playing like Roblox or something. She's like, "Oh, subscribe to my channel!" And like, it's really cute. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be like at work or something. I'm like, be like in my office or something. I'm just like, bumps like just drops into my head.
Yeah. Yes, she's doing the gaming thing. I was split between, because she wanted to do gaming and she wanted to do like actual like recording and stuff, and I was like, I don't know, but like I don't really want to record you. So I'm like, I think we're gonna try the gaming thing first, and then we'll figure it out from there. I'm like, she's happy, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a process. I mean, I think the biggest thing that you could do is, just kind of build them up and be there for them and do it with them. The thing that concerns me about like kids gaming is when they're doing it by themselves and they're not like engaging their parents or something. Then I feel like then it gets a little bit iffy, because then you're like, are they taking like proper safety protocol? Are they, what's actually happening? But when you have an involved parent, then I think it's fine.
I scoured through Roblox, the app, looking at its private settings, all of its settings, so I could like get a good idea. And so like I have that thing set up to where it's like she can't talk to anyone, no one could talk to her, she can't receive messages. Good. And so I have it. That's the way I have everything set up, which a lot of parents don't really like realize that there's like, settings. Like you always hear these stories, and I'm like, dude, why isn't the parent just like go in the settings, look at the security? They'll have like they're pretty well thought out. The Roblox, they're pretty.
I think it's a good game.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played with like I actually do regularly play with her, and then sometimes, like I'll see some things that are not appropriate, but I don't mean to like be that Karen, but I will do it. Like I'll freaking report people all day. But
you should. That's the reason. That's what makes it safe,
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm usually playing with her or reviewing anything that she's watching or playing and stuff too. So it's kind of funny because she already knows.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be checking. But I mean, that also is actually a good. It's cliche. I always say it, but it's a good segue into what I wanted to talk about today, which is the importance of support. So I know it's something that you and I have talked about in the past on different podcasts, and it's something that I think both of us hold really, really firmly on, is the importance of having a good support system. We've never talked about it on this podcast, and so I kind of wanted to talk about it today. Not just because of different things that have happened in my own life and things with my projects and everything, but just in general. I was watching a video today actually, and this is after I already had thought about talking about this today, but I was watching an interview with one of the presidential candidates for the Republican Party, Vivek Ramaswamy, and somebody asked his wife a question. They were doing like a Q&A with his wife, and they asked his wife a question about, why do you think your husband should be the president? And she goes into like this discussion about how when they first met, they were first, dating, I guess, or I'm not sure if they were dating or they were like about to get married or whatnot. But at some point earlier in the relationship, he said, "Hey, I want to start up a business because I don't like the way, this is happening. So I'm going to go ahead and start up a business." And she's like, "Okay, well, do it." And like she gave him some support on it, and he went and did it and turned it into $1 billion company. And then later on in the future, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to write a book. I think it's going to be a bestseller." And she's like, "Oh, well, okay, like, I support you, like, to do this book. I don't know, like, it's going to be a bestseller, but I support you." And it ends up being a New York bestseller. And now he's running for New York Times bestseller. Now he's running for president, and she's fully supporting him on this as well. And I think that really highlighted it for me too when I was thinking about things I wanted to talk about with reference to it. And it's something that me and one of my best friends, we talked at length about this too, because we both were kind of going on our own ventures, if you will. And we were talking about starting up businesses, and he's actually had his business for a long time, but he was talking about how, he wished that his wife was more supportive. And, it really throughout the course of the conversation, it really dawned on me that it's very, very important for you to have a support system, not only somebody that can actually like believe in you and help you through it, but it also helps for you to like kind of work your own stuff out, And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight, is like how important it is to have a system of support. It doesn't have to be like your wife or significant other, but just having support like from your family, from your friends or your closest friends, associates, things like that. But like I said, I know that we've talked about it before, but for anybody that hasn't heard, our position on that, like what do you think about the importance of having that support system?
I think it's vital. Like it would be awesome if you had family, like a significant other supporting you, especially when it comes to like starting a business or anything like that. I think it's like it's important, and I'm honestly blessed that my wife supports me and things that I do. But having a support system, even if it's not like just family, but like let's say a community, because there's a lot of communities out there for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, to join, and you get to talk. And but I do think it's important, mainly because even if you have a support system, the journey of being a solopreneur or an entrepreneur is one of the loneliest journeys you're ever going to take, because everything falls on your shoulders and you have so much stuff in your head that you have to think about, because you're literally like, even though you try to not multitask, your brain is still like, what am I going to do here? I need to do this. How am I going to get here? Or like, I need to come up with, how am I going to accomplish this goal? How am I going to make this much? And so you're literally, your brain is entirely scrambled by thoughts of what to do, how to do it, you know. And it sucks because you can't give those feelings and those emotions to other people, because it doesn't work that way. It's all mental. That's why I honestly think like having a support system is it's absolutely vital when you take this journey in this road to be starting your own, controlling your own future and starting a business. And it's, I don't know how there are some people who have been able to do what we did without any support, but I honestly don't even know how that was possible.
Yeah. No, I think it's crucial because I mean, there's times when I have been like, okay, well, yeah, I want to do this, and then my wife's like, okay, cool, let's do it, and and I love that. I love that about her because it's hard. It's hard when you have somebody that has a lot of ideas, because some of them pan out, some of them don't,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the times they don't, and so every once in a while you hit those really great ideas where they just end up panning out, and everything works out. But I think it's important to understand that, especially if you're first starting out with trying to start up a company um, or just an idea in general. Like, let's say you're writing a book, or you want to write a song or something. It's important to have that support because it's a lot of the times it doesn't pan out, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's one thing that people have a hard time doing is they're afraid of failure. It's like when you're a kid and you're afraid to like ask somebody out. It's because
Yeah.
you're afraid of that rejection, and I think people let that hold them back when it comes to business. And so I think by having somebody that can help to support you, you feel a little bit more confident in that pursuit. You're not afraid of that rejection because, hey, you know what, if even if you do get rejected, you have the support of at least one person,
Yeah.
and as that circle grows, you can actually grow it to a larger number. But um having at least one or two people that you can confide in, I think makes all the difference in the world. It can really determine whether or not you can succeed as a business, or just like I said, any idea really that you have.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I remember when I was doing the music a long time ago, it was really, really, it was, we had people, bless you, um, we had people that believed in us, and we had people that didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes even the people that didn't believe kind of drives you a little bit harder to do something, and like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna show you,
Yeah.
but but it's important like to have that system, and like the larger that grows and the more people that kind of support you, the stronger your confidence level in general. And then also I think that it's incredibly crucial for kind of working through problems too. um,
Yeah.
because the way that I see it, I feel like it does two things. It helps you to kind of refine what you want to do, and that's extremely helpful for not only for like yourself or your personal benefit and trying to like clarify what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, who you're doing it for,
Mm-hmm.
uh, try to get to the right clientele. But also what it does too is it also helps you to articulate that to other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like when you go up for investment opportunities, when you're trying to raise capital, or if you're even just trying to get consumers to understand your product or service, and you're trying to get them to kind of get into that um, understanding of why it is that you're providing what you're providing and why it's going to benefit them. And going back to what you were saying, I think it was last week, with simplifying the business strategy. Actually, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, but about simplifying business, and letting them know what it is that you're doing, why, and then that urgency of why you should do this now. So it helps to kind of clarify those things when you can articulate it to somebody. Because let's face it, if you can't articulate it to the people that are closest to you, you're gonna have a hard time articulating it to somebody you don't know. But I think it's really, really important for those reasons, particularly.
Yeah. I mean, you honestly you touched a base on a lot of crucial things, and I think as society, going back to your first point, that we look at failure and winning in a way that's, I guess the way that you could put it is kind of binary, where it's an either or. You're either a winner and you get a lot of praise for being a winner, and then you have the losers, which is when you lose or you fail at something, then it's like, we're kind of punished because of that failure. And being in sports and and other activities like that was like really enforced, like where failure
Yeah.
is not an option. And as a society, that's kind of how we treat failure, but failure is really a process in itself, because you could learn so much about failing. I've failed so many times. I've, like, in all honesty, I have failed more than I have ever won, but I've learned more through the
Yeah.
failures than I have through the wins. And I think it's important, not even if you're starting a business, or if you're going to be, a solopreneur, an entrepreneur. I think it's important that you really do kind of reimagine the concept of failure and winning. I mean, winning is good. You should always strive to be a winner, but never you should never hit yourself for for failing at something. And what you also pointed out was, you know some things don't pan out when you decide to, like, start a business and it doesn't pan out. I mean, that shouldn't stop you from, trying something else. It's doing this is an entire process. And this wasn't, web design and SEO wasn't my first business. And I didn't necessarily fail, but I quickly lost the passion for the other previous things that I did, where I just didn't want to do it anymore. And so then I ended up starting this, and then it's 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 okay to try different things, because that's what's important. You need to try different things. You need to expose yourself to different things. Ray Kroc, he started so many different things, especially when he was just basically a salesman, and he was trying to sell, like, basically the latest and unknown tech at that time. But if he didn't do that, then he wouldn't have stumbled into McDonald's. If he decided to live the comfortable life and just get a job, McDonald's would have never even existed. And I mean, there's more cases of people failing over and over, just trying different things. They try to be a writer, but they didn't make it at writing, so then they tried doing something else, and then all of a sudden, they've made it to where they're successful at they're finally successful at something that, it took, who knows, like 5, 6, 10 fails. I mean, that should never be ashamed of.
Yeah. No, there's a really good series on YouTube. I think I've mentioned it before, but I think it's called Hooks. It's called Hook or Hooks. I don't remember, but it's like, that's the actual YouTube channel name. And I actually really like it. I'd really recommend it, because they go, like, in depth into the origins of businesses and entrepreneurs. And it's honestly some of the coolest stories that you don't learn about. You don't learn about it in school. You don't learn about it in, high school, middle school, college. It doesn't matter. Like, I really never, like, delved into those stories. A couple of them, like Lego. I think I did a project on in college for Lego, and also Bud Light, or Budweiser in general, which I think is, still one of the best origin stories that I ever came across. But there's some really, really cool ones in there, and it's like, I love it. Like, it's a really good channel. If you haven't checked it out, you should definitely check it out. But yeah, no, it's definitely not all about the wins. It's about the losses and how you turn those into wins by learning from it. And you've said that, multiple times too. And I think it's one of the best pieces of advice somebody can give to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, me and my wife do enforce this with our daughter, because I mean, there's things that, she has a tendency of, kind of freaking out whenever she doesn't, like, do well at something. And,
Yeah.
We're always there to make sure, to tell her, hey, you know what, you need to learn from whatever it is that you feel like you failed at. And you should always take what you learned and then execute it the next time, especially when she was in fighting class. When she was in fighting class, like when she was doing sparring, I would always try and illustrate, like, what she did, like what she needs to work on. Not necessarily, like, I didn't really say that you failed at this, but I did make sure that I kind of said, you know what, you did really great. This is just there's something that we need to improve on. And then slowly she did get better.
Yeah,
But I'll have to check out the YouTube channel. Hooks.
you do. It's good. I don't remember it's Hook or Hooks plural, but it's good.
Yeah.
But even my daughter, like she she just walked in. Even my daughter, like the other day, she said something. She's like, "I can't do it," and I'm like, don't say that. I'm like, I don't want you saying that ever in this house. Like, either you don't say I can't. You say how can I? And then she's like, "Oh, or you can also say I can't yet." I was like, "Yeah, that's true."
Yeah. No, that's important too. Phrasing, like what we say. Yeah, what we say can affect the way that we think. And no, that's excellent, because like we do tell my daughter that too. It's always like it's never that you can't. It's just how can I? Like, how can I do this?
Yeah.
How can I figure this problem out? How can I solve it?
Yeah, like my 3-year-old the other day, she was like wanting me to turn the light on. I was like, "Turn it on." She's like, "I can't reach it." I was like, "Well, if you can't reach it, how can you reach it?" And then like there's like a little hockey stick on the floor, and I was like, "Oh." And so like she used the hockey stick and turned the light on. I was like, "See, I was like, you can do it. You just have to figure out a way how to do it."
Yeah.
So even at that age, where I think she'll probably forget that. Obviously, she's only 3, but it's just those little building blocks that I hope that they retain a little bit of it, because I think that builds on their overall person.
Yep.
What?
I want to watch. I want to watch with the guys TV right now.
Okay, go sit down. Okay, watch it later. Okay. Yeah, she's crazy. I love her.
Yeah, my family's still awake too. Tell them to go to sleep.
Yeah.
They don't listen to me.
Well, we read her a good night book, and then now she's on Roblox, I think. So she can play a little bit before she goes to bed. She did all her homework and everything, and we made bookmarks too. So I bought a laminator, and we colored our own bookmarks and we laminated them.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, I got like five bookmarks out of a sheet of paper. It's awesome. Nice. It took all day, but we got it done. Yeah,
got to start reading 5 books now.
Yeah, we're reading 2. She's reading her first 2-chapter book. She's reading a unicorn book, and then she's also reading a Treasure Island. She's reading Treasure Island.
Nice.
She hasn't upgraded to the business books yet. but I will say, just sidetrack real quick, because I did want to bring this up, because we said we were going to talk about it. I didn't get a chance to bring all my books up, but I figured we could go at least with what your favorite book is. So what was your favorite business book that you read?
Oh, that's a hard question. But I think the one that most definitely impacted me was Influence. I think Influence was the book that probably had the most impact on the way that I thought. And I don't know if you've read it before, but I think it's definitely a must read for anyone, that not necessarily if you just want to get into business, but if you really want to even if it's just career wise or anything like that, then I definitely think Influence is something it's the psychology of persuasion. And
I like that.
Yeah, no, it's a great book, especially because it definitely touches base on how we perceive value and how it's entirely subjective. So just because there's a hamburger that just because McDonald's sells their hamburgers for what, $2 $3 now, there's a burger place over in Las Vegas that has $100 burger, but yet people are still willing to spend that $100 for that burger. And most of the time, depending on where you are in your mental state, you're like, why would you spend $100 on a burger?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense. but to the people who purchased it, there's like a value to it. And so because they hold that burger to have a certain value that they're willing to spend $100 in, doesn't necessarily mean that it has the value that other people perceive it. So it's crazy because it really does kind of get you to wrap your head around what like the value, especially when it comes to pricing. Like that's one of the biggest issues, or that's one of the biggest things about starting a business. Like you don't know how much pricing, you don't know like you need to try and figure out how much people are selling this for. And the truth is, even that is just so open ended, because if you're wanting to race to the cheapest, then you're always going to be at the bottom, and you're never going to make money. And so the psychology of influence, the psychology of persuasion, it kind of helps you like think of the concept of value and the way that you could persuade people into seeing that value. So basically, anything, like in business, like what we do, like what we're trying to do is that we're trying to figure out the pain points of what our customers have. And it virtually doesn't matter, but as long as the pain point is solved, they're willing to spend money on it. And because we're getting rid of that pain point, that's the value that they hold. So it's a pretty crazy book. I think it's recommended for anyone, to be honest.
Yeah, I really want to check that out. Who do you know who it's by?
Yeah, I actually have it. Let me see here. Robert B. Cialdini, Cialdina.
INA. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. And I think this book has always been like on pretty much every reading list that I've looked up. Yeah, Influence, the psychology of persuasion.
Sorry, I was having an issue. Had an emergency.
Oh yeah.
Situation. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, I found it on there. Robert Cialdini.
Yeah.
Cialdini.
I think he is. His Pearl story, though, I love his Pearl story that he talks about, or actually the jewelry store. It's in like one of the first chapters. He explains. He gets into, explaining about price, and he had a friend who had a jewelry store, and she wasn't making a lot of sales. So a lot of people weren't purchasing any of the jewelry that she had, and she didn't know why. But she's friends with the author, and she had to go out of town for something, and then she left instructions to him about price, like that she was gonna lower the prices of certain jewelry, but he didn't fully understand her handwriting. And so what he ended up doing, instead of discounting the price, he increased the price in jewelry. And when she came back, to her surprise, a lot of the jewelry was sold, and all he did was just increase the price. And it's when he started to kind of stumble on the idea of how price isn't necessarily always the judging factor of when it comes to purchasing. So I really do. That's like one of the most, that's the story within the book that's affected me the most.
Yeah, I think that's important too, because when you're talking about price, I think when you have a business, and when you're starting a business, or when you're launching like a new product or service, like you said, it's kind of hard to actually decide like what it is that you should be pricing your stuff at. And I think that a lot of the time what we do is we think from that perspective of value, and we have a misconception of it, because either, especially when you're first starting out and you're not financially free, you're thinking with your own wallet, you know. And so that becomes problematic, because the consumer that you're targeting may not have that same issue. You know, they might have a little bit more financial freedom. They might have a little bit more disposable income. And if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, if you're doing it right, the product that you're adding value to them, that value may mean more to them than what you perceive that it does.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it affected me in that way, because like growing up, we didn't exactly have a lot of money, because I do know that, we're always on a budget. And going into business, that's how I kind of saw everything, was that it was always about price. And I think that that's how I felt like people that was the determining factor of whether you're going to sell something or not. And it wasn't until I joined a support system, and they started to explain to me that that when it comes to copywriting, or like when you're creating a landing page, you never focus on the price. Price is usually the last thing that you end up messing around with. It's always a copy, and it's always a persuading it's always persuading the customers to purchase that item. It's normally never about the price. And to a lot of people have different prices. It was definitely a concept that it took me, and it still kind of creeps into my head, but I quickly have to talk to myself, and I'm like, hey, it's not about price. It's not about price. It's not about price. It's the important thing is that I make sure that I provide the value. I get rid of the pain points that my clients and my customers have, and I do it, to the best of my ability. Because ultimately that's what they want. They don't want to think about the problem. It's my job to make sure that problem is taken care of.
Yeah, I think people have a misconception also about marketing, because they think that, when you think about marketing, I think the general conception of it is like, hey, advertisement or something like that, But marketing is a huge part of business, because you're not just doing advertising, you're doing, I would say that that's probably, that's its own section altogether in itself. But you're doing marketing research, you're finding out what those customer pain points are, and then you're figuring out ways to, and usually you're working with like an R&D team or something to figure out how you solve those pain points.
Yeah.
The other day I was making the kids the waffles, those little Eggo waffles.
Yeah.
Lego my Eggo ones.
Yeah.
I have to say that. But they have like a resealable seal thing on them now,
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things I hated back in the day.
Oh,
when I
yeah.
used to get those, is that like they would stay open and get all like freezer burnt and stuff.
Yeah.
And now they have like a little freaking piece of tape that you just like kind of fold back over. And I'm like, every time I do that, every time I open that thing now, I'm like, you know what? This is marketing in its finest. Like, this is ingenuity based off of marketing, based off of customer pain points. Like, and I think that's a huge part of marketing that people don't really take into account, is, what it can actually help the consumers with. It's not just about trying to sell them something. It's about trying to solve those problems. So I love that you brought that up, because a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah. And it does not matter what business you're in the marketing business. It doesn't matter if you're doing dog walks, you're still in the marketing business. It doesn't matter if you're doing hydraulics for cars, you're still in the marketing business. Mm-hmm. Without marketing, there's no money flow coming in. No one knows who you are. And like I've said, it doesn't matter if you have the best product on the planet. If you're not marketing it, then you have nothing, like nothing at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just, marketing is just like, it's vital to any business surviving.
Yeah. And one of the groups I'm in recently, like it was like yesterday, they just like, I guess, enhanced the group, because the group that I was in wasn't, it wasn't very engaging, but they encompassed it with a larger group of business, because, and I think it was a good move, because they kind of make these little like clicks, I guess you could say, in business, where they're like, oh, well, marketing. And then it's like marketing versus like advertising, or marketing versus finance, or like accounting, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or like research and development. And like, they try to make it like, this department's better than that department because of this. And, and like, they're always butting heads and stuff. But in reality, like, they're all working together. They have to work together. So I think it was a good call for them to do that. But I think it highlights that, though. It highlights the fact that business is like, it's a lot of different areas. There's a lot of different specialties, but it needs to come together if you want it to be successful.
Yeah, that's like arguing what body part's the most important. Like, dude, you need your feet to walk, you need your hands to grab, you need your head to think.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. Like, there's like, honestly, there's no one better than the other. They're all like hand in hand and all important.
Yeah. But I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Well, what book is your favorite business book?
Well, it's hard for me, but I always fall back to this one, and I think so. That's why I think I'm using it as my example for my favorite one. Is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah. Just
because I think there's a huge mindset shift that happens when you read it, and it's not even like, I like Robert Kiyosaki. I actually do find him interesting, and I think he's a very smart, intelligent person. Mm-hmm. But I know that he has a lot of, there's a lot of controversy on him and about the book in general, about the how factual it is. But yeah, factual or not, like, it's a great book to read, and it really does represent a really strong shift in mindset, which I think is the most important thing. Like, I know we've talked about it several times in the past, about having that mindset shift. And I think that that's one of the things that helped me kind of shift gears in my mind about business just in general, because I think the best part of the book, honestly, is when he's talking about him and his friend, that they want to start a business, and their kids,
yeah,
and they end up fabricating. I forget what it was. I know they were using like toothpaste. I think they were like making money. They were like physically making money,
They were
counterfeit
making
money.
nickels
Nickels,
out of the tubes, the toothpaste tubes.
Yeah. So they were like actually counterfeiting money. But and like the rich, I was like, or I remember it was the rich dad or the poor dad, but they're like, it's not what I meant. And this
that
is
was
legal.
so funny.
but it really just makes you like think about it, like, you know, when you're a kid and like having to like understand the whole process of it. But that was like the best part of the book for me, because that's where like it really just starts to click in and starts to set in, and you start like, you know, thinking of ideas and stuff. And then when it starts building into the, you know, greater scheme of things and the larger part of like actual like starting up a business and how to think smart and how to make your money work for you and stuff. So I think that's probably one of my favorite books because of that. And I think that it's crucial for, like, I bought it for my daughter, like the teen version. I think we talked about that before, but she, I don't even think she's opened it, and I'm not like forcing her to do it because I want her. I don't want to force anything on my kids, to be honest. Like, I want them to like if they want the help, I want them to ask me for it, and then I can help them, you know, but I don't want to push it on them. Like, I'll put little breadcrumbs here and there.
Yeah, and I think they don't. Yeah, I don't think they learn that way too. Like, to kind of force it upon them, that's just not like. Then they're just gonna have the thought that, you know, I have to read this. So it's like they just want to get it over with, but they don't like, you know, pick up the golden nuggets that's within the book. And and reading that book, that is what shifted my mind about business being an infinite game and not just a start to finish.
Yeah.
Because I think it was in that book when he brought up when he brought up that, I think it was either his friend's dad knew that he wasn't gonna like, or he illustrated the point where he may not make millions of dollars, but the purpose of him starting a business was learning the skills so he could teach his son, and his son could make more than what he was going to make. And it's because it's passing the skills that you learn starting a business, and then you passing it on to, you know, to your children, and your children learn upon those skills, and then they teach those skills to their children, and their children build upon those skills. So it was definitely like that kind of like clicked in me, where I was like, you know what, that's like, it's right, because it's not, you know, there's never going to be a fairy tale, a happy ending to business. It's like literally, it's the day I started, the day I'm either retire, I sell it, or I die. But the whole point is that I take the skills that I learned from starting a business and from failing and succeeding. I teach my daughter and my son, and then hopefully they could, I don't know, 10x what I do in their lifetime. And then
that's real generational wealth. Everybody's, you know, they wouldn't talk about generational wealth and you know, passing down financial benefits, but you know what, that's the real generational wealth, is passing down that knowledge.
The knowledge is power. It's money is just a byproduct of that knowledge.
It is. It truly is. And that's why if you, man, I forget who it was. I want to say it was Jim Rohn who said that you don't, you know, you can give everybody in the world $1 million and it'll end up back in the same hands that it came from. You know, you could redistribute that funds, but it's
it always goes back to the people who know how to make the money.
Exactly. And if you don't know how to manage your money, you're going to lose it, you know. And it's simple economics and the way that we, in really social behavior, you know, it's just the way that we value money, the way we perceive it, the way we use it, the way we spend it, you know. So yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that. No,
I do too. I think I definitely think it was a failure in the school system not to teach. I do remember a couple of classes that did interest me, and they did go over finances, but overall, it is a kind of a disappointment that we don't really get talked to about money, how money works, because like it's like you said, you could distribute all the money that you want, and I always see I always see posts about that, like if this rich person distributed all their money, then then poverty would be gone. But the thing is, it wouldn't be gone, because the people who tend to be in poverty are the ones that spend the money, and they only spend it on goods that are not investments. Not it's just they buy consumable
consumables.
Products.
Yeah,
consumable products, and not like education or something that's going to help them build the knowledge to to potentially make more money.
Right.
I mean,
100%.
Yeah, they end up being broke the next day.
Yeah, I mean, there's like multiple stories, and I don't know like the accuracy of the stories, obviously, but multiple stories about people who have won like the lottery, for example.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And then within a few years, they're broke again.
I think it was 93. I believe it was 93% of people who won the lottery ended up being broke within 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's crazy. And it's sad because I'm like, dude, if I won the lottery, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to invest.
Yeah, me too. Investing.
Invest here, like I always
investments.
Yeah, I always tell my wife, I'm like, if I won that lottery, I would find a way to like triple it the next year, and then quadruple it.
That would be my goal
the following year. Yeah,
it wouldn't even
that's
be
what,
like
that's
anything. I wouldn't
that's,
buy anything.
That's what it has to be. Yeah, like that's honestly that's what you have to do. Just don't go on vacations or anything. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not gonna put any of the money that I win in my business because that's not a good model either. I mean, like if you win the lottery, you're not gonna put it into. You could put it into starting a business, but maybe not necessarily like trying to grow it. But like I would definitely try to find a way to quadruple it within the next year.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because I don't want to be broke in 5 years. I'm like,
hey, but you'd have a pretty sweet Lambo for a while.
Oh yeah.
You know what I want? Like that would be one thing I would invest in, or that I would purchase. It would be I would get a tractor, but I would want it to be a Lamborghini tractor.
Yeah,
because that's how Lamborghini started, was a tractor company. And I even thought about buying a Vespa and just putting like a logo for like Lamborghini Trattori on the Vespa, just for the hell of it.
Yeah, it's going back to like businesses, like Toyota. They started at making basically like a what was it? Not fabric, basically like blankets and stuff. There's a specific word that they use, but yeah, it was textile. Toyota was originally a textile
company.
Yeah, company, and they didn't move on to cars until they, I believe, they wanted to basically shift because they weren't making enough, so they decided to switch to making cars because cars was going to be like the next big thing. So the family decided, or basically the dad, Toyota, he decided to basically just go full on invest in creating a car. And now Toyota is one of the most popular driven cars. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's I think one of the stories that I watched on that Hooks thing was about Lamborghini and Ferrari. I think it was Lamborghini and Ferrari, but they had like a little dispute. And like that was the whole reason why Lamborghini ended up making cars, was because he was getting criticized by Ferrari, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, like I'm gonna make a better car than you now. Just out of spite. Yeah. That's going back to what we were originally talking about, where sometimes the haters make you do more than your support system.
And I think you should fully embrace it too, because I mean,
I agree.
My wife disagrees with me, but I'm like, you know what? Like, there's sometimes when I might be jealous of someone else, but it helps me because I try and channel the jealousy or the anger into being productive, and it helps me like basically like light a fire under my ass and like do like it pushes me. So it's like motivating. It doesn't I don't allow it to consume me in a negative way.
Yeah.
I really did have to to train myself into like doing something productive with it and not just like sulk and be sad about it.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with anything is you have to have the right perspective of it. And like kind of goes back into everything that we're talking about. It's just not having that negative connotation when it should, like when somebody's trying to make something negative towards it, don't take it negatively. You feel like you're going to get rejected. Don't worry about the rejection. Worry about where you're going to learn from it. So I think it's a really good point because, like I said, I mean, the person that's going to get in your way the most when it comes to business, starting up a business, is yourself. Like, hands down, 100% of the time, the biggest obstacle that you're going to face is your own self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that from experience.
Yeah. What was it? Who said that? I think he was talking about wealth, success, or anything in general. It was 20% skill and then 80% mental. Like it was 80% mentality and 20% skill to accomplishing anything. And I do think that's right. I think mentally you could definitely get a way of you could get in front of yourself. I think most obstacle always starts with yourself anyway. Like, with your mentality. And I think that's why reading books is like such important too. Like maybe just not reading, but like Audible or anything that, any kind of content that you can consume that's not social media or Instagram or TikTok. I think that's definitely like I think that's kind of that's the negative content that should be consumed, which is why I've like tried to solely focus on just books, like reading or listening to Audible.
Yeah. The other day we were all sitting down and it was kind of a cool experience because it's something I never thought. I've never been a strong reader growing up, I think the first and only book that I like, well, I'll say the first one that I read from front to back, like just straight through without taking any breaks or anything like that. The only reason I did it was because I was actually in jail at the time. I'm not going to lie. I didn't have anything else to do. And so I read it, but it was called The Sisters and it was actually a really good book.
Yeah.
So I never thought that I would see the day when, we'd be in the living room and we're all just kind of laying on the couch and we're all reading, and like electricity wasn't out, tablets were all charged up and everything. So it wasn't like that we needed to do it. It was just that, like, my daughter got a new book and she wanted to start reading it. And I was like reading my new book that I just bought. And so it was just like a really cool thing. Like just everybody just quiet in the living room reading books, It was kind of cool. And so I think we're kind of trying to start to implement that more. Like we're having like reading sessions every night, me and my daughter and stuff. So like she's learning how to read. Obviously she's in first grade. So she's been working really hard. And she's impressively, kind of running through these chapter books now. And they're like early readers, but I mean like Treasure Island, I remember that from when I was a kid,
Yeah.
And
I wasn't,
it's just cool.
I wasn't a strong reader either. I mean, I wasn't really great at school too, but it was pretty crazy though, because I think the main reason why I wasn't such a strong reader or very great at school was because I was blind as F and hell. Like I was blind. And so I, with my wife's help, or basically my wife, when this must have been right before we got married. Yeah, I think it was right before we got married. She got LASIK for me as like a birthday present. And
nice.
oh my god, dude, like it's crazy. Like when we talk about perspective, I was like, literally my eyes were open to like an entirely different world. Like it was so freaking crazy because like it didn't click that I had bad, like I know they said that I had dyslexia. I don't think it was dyslexia. It's just honestly I just think I couldn't see. And even with the glasses, even the eye doctor said that they can't make it perfect vision, but they could get as close to it as they can.
Yeah.
And I was like, and like that never hit me. Like that was in school. And it didn't hit me until I got LASIK when I was like, dude, like like this whole entire world has just like
opened up.
Yeah, it's insane. I think
That's
and
cool.
that was when I started reading like crazy, is when after I got LASIK, I wanted to start reading more, and it was so easy for me. But it's just crazy, like it's like you said, the perspective of the way that we see things. It didn't click to me that I was like, I didn't have like the best eyesight. Like I just thought that was kind of like the way that the world worked. And it wasn't until after I got LASIK is like when like perspective really does kick in, and it's like you can see things in a different perspective than you did before. Like books, I didn't want to read books because for one, it was hard for me to focus, and I just thought it was like I just couldn't focus reading a book because it was boring. But but it wasn't that. It was just because I couldn't really see right, so that's why reading never appealed to me.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm just a very I think it is the other of the two where it's just not so much that it's boring, but I can't focus.
Yeah.
And even to this day, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to read because my mind starts to wander. I'm a lot better now. I can stay a little bit more focused now, but I wouldn't say I would wish that I had, the vision issue.
Yeah.
Because I don't. But it would make more sense to me than the issues that I struggle with when it comes to reading. And my wife's the same way too. And it might even be her eyesight because, I mean, she got with me, so I'm just kidding. But no, she says she's dyslexic too, and but I think she just has a lot of the same issues that I have, where it's just hard to focus on stuff.
Yeah.
So it's hard for both of us. It's funny because I just started reading this new book, and she said she read the first page and she couldn't keep going. She's like, just get me the audio book of it. I was like, okay. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is perspective though. And I think that, again, it kind of goes back to you just talked about how your wife got you the LASIK and stuff, and kind of encouraged you, to pursue stuff. And it's a lot of what I wanted to talk about today was about that support system. And it could be in anything, it could be in just your everyday life, and just having that support really means the world to somebody that's struggling with trying to put a business together. It's stressful. It's not easy. It's, you're taking on risks and liabilities, and, you're not unless you have even if you do have a formal education, I'll say, I mean, I was going to say that, even if you have a formal education, kind of mitigates some of those things, but in reality, it doesn't. It makes you a little bit more confident when you go into situations and when you're trying to speak to things that are in that industry. But the reality of it is that, if you have that support system, it really makes the difference. And I would say that a lot of the times, if you have that, you're going to succeed more so than if you don't. I do think it's a determining factor in whether or not somebody succeeds or not, when it comes to business and starting up their own business. And I don't know, it's a topic that I really like, and I think that it's important for people to kind of grasp the actual concept of it. It's not just having somebody say, "Yeah, good job, do it." It's having somebody that's going to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not too clear on what you mean." And I think that the biggest thing that somebody can do, and if you're watching this, the biggest thing that I think you can do is be honest and try to engage somebody, because it's not, it's easy to say, "Hey, yeah, get a good support system," but how do you do that? And I think that it's important to engage people and try to articulate that and practice articulating what it is that you want to achieve. So like, like, "Hey, babe, this is what I'm trying to do." Because even when you say something like, "Hey, when I'm trying to write this book," it doesn't really put them in your mind, and so they can be, passively supportive. I'm like, "Oh yeah, you know what? I think you should go for it." But it's a totally different perspective when you can actually bring them into your mind and like be like, "Look, this is why I think that this is important. This is how I'm going to tackle this. This is kind of what I was thinking." And like, get that genuine feedback, and don't be afraid to like get some type of pushback, and get somebody that's going to be honest to help you and say, "Hey, you know what? I don't think that that's a good idea." Or just say, "Hey, you know what? What about this? Or what about that?" And, raise those other questions and stuff. So, I think that's something I wanted to touch on that I didn't really talk about earlier, but I think that it's important to be able to bring somebody in that way. I think it's really, really important to understand that, and not just the black and white, like, hey, get somebody that can be supportive for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it makes complete sense. And I think perception of value and having a support system go hand in hand too, because to have a support system, I definitely think you need to be around people who value the same things that you do, especially going on and starting a business, or really like just going after things that you're passionate about. It doesn't make a lot of sense for, I mean, like you said, you get people who are like, who basically just give you a pat on the back when you win, like when you accomplish something, and it's like,
Yeah,
it doesn't feel the same when you have like genuine people who are interested and intrigued, like who are really like actually like happy, and they understand like the troubles that you went through and the obstacles that you had to go through in order to get where you are. Like, you have to have that people who have the same value system that you do.
yeah, yeah. And I think that that's something that we can delve on to, and maybe we can do like an article or something on it in the near future, because I think that it would be a really cool thing to kind of touch more on, because I think it's one of the most important things of business. And not, like you mentioned earlier, it's not just business, it's just life in general. It's important to have that. And I think that um, I think that there's just so much that you can elaborate on it, that it's hard to kind of confine into an episode. But with that being said, we're already over time on that, but like always. But yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we jump off in reference to that?
Nothing really comes to mind. No, I think we've pretty much touched. I mean, it's like you said, there's a lot of things that like that we could go into and talk about. But I think it's definitely an entire different episode.
Yeah, I agree. But if you got any type of value, or if you have any questions for either me or Joe, definitely reach out to us. Let's see if this actually works this week, because last week it was giving me issues. It looks like it's going to. Okay, that's good. So go to the Pallet Talks website, because I just added some new things. So it has the polls and everything on there, but this part right here. So if you just scroll down right past the polls, if you have any questions, if you want to respond to a topic that we talked about, it'll link you to a form or to a page to just enter in any questions that you have, general feedback. If you want to request to be a guest, you could go there as well. Topic suggestions. So my biggest thing, and I know this is, Joe's actually talked about this too, is that one of the biggest things about what we're doing and the reason that we're passionate about doing these podcasts and these episodes is because we want to be able to share that value or get value for somebody else, even if it's just one other person that gets some type of value. It's worth it for me. I want to make sure that people do, and I would like to give value to as many people as possible. But one of the biggest things for me is to be able to engage with other people too. So if you guys have any questions, if any comments, anything from previous episodes, we can address it. We've had some fun comments, some things we've talked about, but yeah, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, like that's important to me, is to make sure that we're adding value or giving you some type of value. So, of course, if there's any way that you can support the channel in any way, we have like really cool merch. I think it's really cool. I've been wearing it, so you can check that out. But even if you don't have anything like monetarily or anything like that, if you can follow, get engaged on any of the episodes that we have, the biggest thing that we want to get from this is that value for somebody else.
Yeah. Yep. Couldn't say it better myself. I mean, I think
that's because I was copying you.
Yeah, I know. No, that's definitely important, man. Because especially if you're just starting out, knowledge is everything. And if everything that I've been through, if I could have someone teach someone or provide value, that it would prevent them from basically going through the same things that I did, I mean, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, providing value, it's important for me.
Yeah. And thank you guys to everybody that's watched, whether it be live or whether it be afterwards, and anybody that's sent in feedback. We really appreciate it. So again, thank you guys. I know it's getting late, so I appreciate you being on, Joe, as always. I love our talk. So thanks again for coming here. And thank your family for being patient while we chatted up. But thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and hope we see you guys next week. Take care.
All right, we'll see you.